morning, everybody. Hope you're having fun singing in the rain. That's right. Well, I have one new announcement today, and that is that on Tuesday, February 20th at 4:30 p.m., we're going to have a discussion led by Jill Shook about churches, affordable housing, and the new Senate Bill 4. And I, for one, have been studying that already and hope to learn a lot more. So that's there's a flyer about it out there along with the bulletin. So if you didn't get it already, be sure to grab it and check it out. Then the Sunday after that is going to be our annual congregational meeting, February 25th. 11:30 is our usual starting time. And before all that, this Wednesday, Hour of Peace and Healing, which we need with all the bombardment of the disasters that we get news of all the time. So I hope you have a wonderful Sunday, stay dry, and thank the universe for the wonderful rain that we need so much.
It is an honor, a pleasure to be back with you here at our home here at Neighborhood Church. I had a wonderful vacation. I'm actually leaving again for 2 more weeks after today. I'll see you in February. No, I'm kidding, I'm joking. But I had a wonderful, wonderful time, and I'm thankful to be in a spiritual community like this one that allows me to go away, to rest, replenish, have some fun, and come back and be with you in family, in love. Thank you so much. Give yourselves a hand for making that possible. Come on, do it. It's very important to me that we take this moment before we proceed forward to bless and honor the power of breath and presence together. So, as you see our prayer wheel turning, I invite you, as you are led, to take a deep breath. Perhaps you haven't had a chance to do that all week, and now you can breathe with me, with us. So we do it in and out, in and out. We breathe in abundance, and we breathe out scarcity. We breathe in life and breath and love, and we breathe out disconnection and fear. We breathe in hope, the hope of this new day, and we breathe out all the stuff we brought into this space. And all that stuff, and all that stuff, and all that stuff over there. And we simply breathe and be in love. In and out. In and out. Let's take a moment of silence for ourselves, for this world, all the hurting parts of our planet. Manifest peace in our hearts with this moment of silence. To my right and to your left, we've established our gathering words for the morning. I'm going to begin, and I'll invite you to read the words that are placed in italics. Here are those words. Our earth home, mother and cradle of life, blessed is your name. Blessed are your fields and forests, your rocks and mountains, your sky lit with radiant sun, moon, and stars. Blessed are our green relatives who give so freely to us. Air to breathe, sweet fruits, nourishing seeds, vegetables to eat, shade, shelter, beauty. Blessed are all our human relatives. Believing that we were apart from the rest of our earth home, we have scarred her deeply. But now, humbly, we seek to honor what we've harmed. And we are received with blessing. Why? Because earth does not reject her beloved children. Help us to feel wonder, to give thanks, to reclaim kinship and reverence with ourselves, a wholehearted kind of love. Amen.
Staying in that place, I'm going to play A Gentle Thought I shared with you last week by Andre Previn.
What are some powerful, can you guys hear me? No? Hello? Nothing? Okay, good? Okay. What are some powerful questions when expressing reverence for a person, place, or thing? Parker and Scarlett are going to be handing out some cards with that very same question on it. but just hang on to them and don't worry about that question just yet. Okay, go ahead. When I think of people, places, or things that I have reverence for, I find them awe-inspiring in their beingness. Okay, wait for them. Okay. There, I have some blanks. Did I not make enough? I don't think I maybe didn't make enough. I don't know.
I would play some passing out music, but I haven't done that since I played in the bars. All I can think of is...
So what the question is, what are some powerful questions when expressing reverence for a person, place, or thing? So if you didn't get that written on your card, that's what you'll be addressing.
Sue, can you say that again?
Yeah. What are some powerful questions when expressing reverence for a person, place, or thing? So when I think of people, places, or things I have reverence for, I find them awe-inspiring in their beingness. Before I ask a powerful question, I might open with an expression of gratitude, of how I experience the person, place, or thing, gratitude for their energy and their essence, for what they are doing in the world, and for how inspirational they are. And that gratitude connection sets the stage and gives context for the question I'm about to pop. It alleviates that, where is this coming from, sort of energy, and clarifies for myself what I really want to know. So what is a powerful question? For me, a powerful question is an inquiry of something that I might be curious about, or I may be struggling with, or have struggled with at some point in my journey. Perhaps a desired freedom from a limiting habit, belief, or perception. I may want to ask, what practice do you use and what insights have you gained to stay hopeful in the face of a world in turmoil? How do you remain so peaceful, spacious, and patient when you have so much to do? I see that sparkle in your eyes. What brings you such joy? How do you remain in love and acceptance with what is, when what is not what you resonate with? We are going to take a few moments now to inquire and wonder for ourselves. So get comfortable in your seat with your feet firmly planted on the ground. That was a good one. Close your eyes, relax your shoulders, and begin to take some deep breaths. Breathing in and out. Breathing in, relaxation. Breathing out, felt responsibility and stress. Breathing in, connection to source energy. breathing out and releasing self-judgment or separation from. Take 3 more deep breaths and connect with the wisdom of your all-knowing heart. Keep breathing and imagine you are standing in front of someone, place, or thing for whom you have great respect and reverence. This person, place, or thing shares your connection with source energy and with you. It is not judgmental. You can say anything. You can tell them anything. Ask them anything. You are totally free to share your deepest self. Feel the feeling of absolute love and connection. From that place of non-judgmental love and deep wisdom, take them in. They are trustworthy. They too are on a journey. They too are curious, just as you are, and have wondered about many things along the way. Now consider your powerful question. When you have formulated it, ask it silently or out loud, whichever is most comfortable for you, and then write it down on your card. If you can't find the specific words, but have a reoccurring feeling that you are curious about, or perhaps you find a bit unsettling, you can just address your honored person, place, or thing and say, I don't have the words. I don't even know why this feeling or dream arises, but I'm willing to hear or see what's behind this unsettling experience. Thank you. I honor your wisdom and appreciate your insight and help. Keep breathing and listening for the answer or insight. When you see or hear something, write it down. Release any judgment about what you see or hear and replace it with wonder. It is in the wondering and curiosity that we can experience the complexity and understanding we seek. If you were unable to write anything down, no worries. Keep your card close by you this week and write down any insights that occur to you. For me, bursts of insights come from very unexpected places and at surprising times. Now begin to bring your energy back into the room. And when you are ready, open your eyes. In my mid to late 30s, I drove up to Santa Cruz with 2 long-term and longtime friends to attend a conference on health and healing at the university there. We stayed with neighbors who had once lived on our street in Laguna, but had moved a few years back to live in an old Victorian with a stream at the far edge of the yard and several large redwood trees. We slept on the living room floor. We had brought our own pillows from home, and our host supplied the blankets. We were journeying and on a pilgrimage. Not on our knees, but that wooden floor was pretty darn hard. I was reminded of this pilgrimage because the speakers were truly awe-inspiring. And there was a question and answer section after each presenter. We listened attentively to every speaker, and to every answer, and to every question. The answers to the questions were hardly what I expected. When the Dalai Lama had spoken well over 4 hours about Dharma and right living, he stressed acting from kindness and compassion as a component of healing and of a good health. He was asked, "How do you keep anxiety at bay on a particularly busy day?" I was expecting some esoteric answer, but he replied, "I meditate twice as long in the morning, and I allow twice the amount of time I need to get to my first meeting." The follow-up question was, "Well, what do you meditate on?" The answer, "The day's meetings." When a Tibetan monk took the stage, he sat on an intricately carved wooden chair, a flower arrangement at his feet, and a scroll 2 feet wide and about 6 feet high that was suspended above that arrangement. We were too far back in the auditorium to decipher the image on the scroll, but nonetheless, the three, the monk, the arrangement, and the scroll, were aligned in a perfect, solid plane, and they were pleasing to look at. The monk, in his maroon robes, was advocating starting or maintaining a meditation practice as a health aid for body and mind. At some point in his presentation, he had mentioned the timelessness that can be experienced in meditation, and that the experience of no time is good for lowering high blood pressure. A young man about 2 rows back wanted the monk to explain how you achieve timelessness. Now, I cannot tell you how the monk did this, but his answer was not at all verbal. It was, however, magical. In a split second, and in silence, the stage appeared to go dark. Visually, the monk transformed into a seated golden statue, and the scroll became a window into infinity. I'm not sure how long we sat mesmerized like this, because there really was no sense of time. But I can say that that vision, and especially the window into infinity, was a better explanation of timelessness than anything he could have ever said verbally. And Don Jose, a shaman from Mexico from the Huichol tradition, thought he was in his hundreds, although he didn't know what year he had been born. He knew he had spent 10 years living alone in the forest to learn the language of nature, and he had gone through many rituals and teachings to become a shaman. He not only listened to the plants to learn their healing properties, he listened and acted on his dreams as well, and that was very fortunate for Brant Secunda, a backpacker who was lost and dying in the desert until another Huichol shaman and Don Jose, who saw Brant Secunda in his dreams, went out and found him, carried him back to the village, and nursed him back to life. Not surprisingly, Brant stayed with Don Jose and completed the apprenticeship and became a shaman himself. At this conference, Brant was Don Jose's interpreter. When it came time for questions, another young man asked, Does Don Jose eat meat?" Brant responded, "I will ask him that question, but that will not make any sense to him." I am sure the audience was 95% vegetarian at that time. And since the deer and the dance of the deer played such a large part in the village rituals of Don Jose, I am positive the questioner was sure the village was vegetarian too. But that was not the case. Besides all the food the villagers gathered and grew, they also killed and ate deer in times of celebration. And all parts of that deer were utilized. Nothing was wasted. For Don Jose and his village, animals were no more sacred or important than a plant. All life, plants, animals, the elements, the earth, and the cosmos itself, all were the same. They were all living, they all had consciousness, and they were all sacred. I can tell you, I have never looked at a carrot in the same way again. I guess what I'm wondering is there anything in creation, whatever part it plays, that does not deserve our awe and reverence? And is there anything in creation, if approached with reverence, that wouldn't answer a powerful question in its own way? And perhaps that won't be in words.
Thank you, Sue. Did you miss singing? We haven't sung yet, have we? We're going to sing the Rainbow Connection. No? Am I wrong?
If it's okay. If it's
Oh,
all
well,
right,
you're
before we
here.
do, I'm led by this beautiful meditation that Sue just led us through. Let's give her a hand, by the way. Let's give her a hand. To my right and over here on your left, you see our beautiful container of love, the sands of our experiences as a community of faith, as a people of love. We have space for your hopes, your joys, and your concerns. Let's just take a moment. I feel like this is such a powerful moment where we've manifested our hopes, dreams, and prayers for one another and for the world. This is a great, great opportunity for us to take all that good feeling and to do something physical with our bodies as an act of reverence and respect for who we are and what we bring to this moment. Perhaps you have a hope, a joy, or a concern for yourself, someone you hold dear, maybe a community of people, maybe a country, a part of our globe, whoever and however that comes into your mind. I want to invite you, as you are led, to come to our table of love and pour in some sand of hope, pour in some sand of joy, and pour in some sand of concern. As Roxanna plays softly, I invite you to come as you are led. Won't you come and pour some sand? So let's do it. I'll start.
Now we're going to sing. I felt like I was at Nordstrom playing. Here we go. Why are there and who said we're going to modulate big verse. La 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 dee. Sorry about that, turning the pages. You know, I just got to tell you real quick. 1979, copyright, guess what the publishing is called? Fuzzy Muppet Songs. That just made me happy.
Well, I love hearing you sing it. It made me happy. Give yourselves a hand. Y'all sound so beautiful.
Can't get the pages turned.
It is my pleasure to invite back my friend. You've seen and heard her voice previous, and we get to have her back here in January of 2024. Sarah Heath is a United Methodist clergywoman. She is originally from Canada, and she got her Master's of Divinity degree from Duke Divinity School back in the 2000s. She is, I didn't say what year, Sarah. I didn't say what year. She is an author. She's a podcaster. She's a coach. She is a counselor. She is a woman of faith and love, and I'm so glad to have her back here today. Before she begins to speak, I was asked to read a small passage from one of the letters that we were believing that were written by the Apostle Paul. That is, y'all know I'm very careful about who's written what in our Bible, and we are fairly certain that Paul wrote the book of Romans. So I can say from the Apostle Paul, Romans chapter 8, verses 5 through 8. Here are his words. For those who live according to the faith set their minds on the things of the flesh, but those who live according to the Spirit set their minds on the things of the Spirit. To set the mind on the flesh is death, but to set the mind on the Spirit is life and peace. For this reason, the mind that is set on the flesh is hostile to love, for it does not submit to love's law. Indeed, it cannot. And those who are in the flesh cannot please love. Let's have a hand for my friend, the Reverend Sarah Heath, as she comes. You got it? Okay. Is it on for you? Okay.
Now it's red. What does that mean?
There we go.
Thank you. Thank you. Friends, it's so good to be with you again. My name is Sarah, and it was an absolute honor to be in this space with you again. I was reminded, Sue, this has nothing to do with my sermon, but I wanted to make you laugh first. Sue, you talked a little bit about this idea of a carrot. You no longer look at the carrot the same way. And I thought about when I first moved to California, I did what all young pastors do when they move to California, and I immediately started auditioning for commercials. And in that, I would go to Burbank once a week, and I would go to like these acting classes, and then I would audition for commercials. And I played the role of a girl from LA who was on a terrible date. And she was explaining her, her preferences when it came to how she eats. And she, her poor date is like really not wanting to hear this, but she's sort of saying, she's like, I'm a forager. And he was like, okay, well, what does that mean? And they're like over a meal, and she says, I only eat things that have fallen on the ground. And he was like, okay. And then she says, so what about these carrots? And she says, this was my big line, are you ready? They were in fact murdered. And that, I don't know why I didn't get it. You guys thought it was funny. I did not get the role. All that to say, of the many things I did, acting like a LA girl was one of my favorites. So let's pray, and then we're going to actually talk about the scripture. Should we do that? Perfect. God, as always, I simply ask that the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of us gathered both in this space and also online will be gathered to you. Because, God, you are indeed our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. All right, you've already been asked to do a lot of things. And I am going to warn my introverts, what I'm about to ask you to do, if you feel uncomfortable, simply stare at the roof, and that will be our universal sign to not ask you this. Ready? I see my introverts in the back. Of course you'd be in the back. Okay. I want you to turn to the person next to you. This will take 2 seconds, maybe less. And simply say how you are feeling. Go ahead. How are you feeling? You ready? I'll cut you off. Don't worry. How are you feeling? Aw, she feels alone, guys. All right, you can finish answering that later. But when someone asks us how we're feeling, we most often respond with something like tired. Clergy, we love to say busy, which is not a feeling, guys. But we'll say things like tired, or maybe right now you're like bored, whatever it is. Don't tell me if that's that one. But we often answer with things that are not feelings at all. We don't say, I feel tingly in my stomach. We don't say, my hands feel a little cold. We don't respond with our body at all. I want to argue with our buddy Paul here. And that's okay. Because I like to tell people when I was in graduate school, I always said, Paul and I are like a couple that broke up. And we dated in college because I was super into Paul in college, right? And we don't talk anymore unless it's about our mutual friend Jesus. Because Paul and I had a really tough experience because I'm a woman, and so what I do or did for a living really did not fit into what a lot of people interpret Paul to believe here. But I also think that as we look at what Paul here says in Romans, through our own eyes and through our own lens, so I guess I'm not really picking on Paul, I'm picking on how we read Paul, how men taught me to read Paul, really made something happen in myself that was a separation between my mind and my body. So when my friend Rod asked me to speak on reverence for self, mind, body, and soul, what I realized is that for most of my life, those were separate things. Mind, body, and soul. And I feel like for the last couple of years, I've been on this journey of trying to connect all of them together to see myself as a whole being instead of in these separate stages. And why is that? Well, I think the faith that I grew up in taught me to do this separation thing. Taught me to think about my mind as one thing and my body as something else. And worse than that, thanks Paul, my body's actually bad. My body's problematic. How my body shows up is a problem. And what happens then is that I am two separate things. I think theology or the study of God or how we sit in here or how we talk about reverence, how can you have reverence for something, reverence simply being the act of giving meaning to something or finding something to be worthy, right? If we don't know or love it, how can I give reverence to something I don't know? How can I give reverence to something I don't like? And if I grew up in a tradition that taught me to not like or love my body because my flesh is problematic, then how do I give reverence to myself? And worse still for me is how do I give reverence to the other bodies around me? Because they're problematic. And only do I ever feel good about my spirituality when my body's less problematic than your body. Right? And now we're in the struggle Olympics. So why should I talk about this? Why me? Why Sarah? I'm going to give you a little history about myself. Don't worry, it's not super long. This isn't just my theology, it's a personal story. In fact, I have a degree in psychology and biology. I studied animal behavior, which is how I became a pastor, yeah? It comes in way handy, those things together. Before I thought I would be an actress, I thought I would also be a veterinarian. So I was going to be a veterinarian who acts, standard childhood dreams. And I grew up in this really interesting setting in that my family moved to Mississippi, but my dad is Canadian and my mom is British. And they're both in the medical profession. My father was a physician, my mom was a nurse. So we talked about bowel movements a lot at dinner, if that's what you're wondering about. But I grew up with one understanding of my body, and then I moved to the Deep South. And not only did I move to the Deep South, but I moved to the Deep South as a 13-year-old girl who was trying to figure out, how do I exist in this space? How do I fit in? And then I went to North Carolina to Duke for grad school. And mixed into this whole soup, I was trying to figure out, how do I understand my mind and my body and what's good about me? And so a couple years ago, someone asked me to speak to a group of predominantly men who were pastors about embodiment. And the guy that went before me talked about clergy health, and he talked a lot about how these guys should all start intermittent fasting and how it was really important for us to see our bodies as a temple. And you could see all these guys like, yeah, I'm into this. And then I came in, and the guy literally said, the magic is in when we're not eating. That's the magic. And as someone who has survived an eating disorder, I thought, that's not the magic, my friend. And when you're talking about people's bodies as if they are a problem, you are furthering the theology that exists known as, are you guys ready? If you don't know this word, this is a new fun word, Gnosticism. I would argue that most of our churches that I was very much a part of when I was like in my teenage years, because I went to a lot of Baptist communities, and remember, I'm in the South, Evangelical, those are the really handsome worship leader guys, so I'm going to show up. It's like the deep V-neck season, scarves that made no sense. And all these guys were talking about how my flesh was terrible, and I was like, yes, but also, can we make out? Like, I was in this really confusing space trying to figure out what I think all of us are always trying to figure out is, do we fit in? When I say the study of God is the study of self, we're wondering, where do we come from, and do I fit in? Gnosticism, which, by the way, was considered heretical, but I feel like our evangelical brothers and sisters live in this separation of mind and body. And Gnosticism was a belief that there was one God that created the temporal, or like things that we can touch and feel, and that's the bad God. So anything that's like temporal, anything like is the bad thing. But our minds, that's where salvation lies, in our thoughts. Think about all the worship songs that maybe you heard, maybe you haven't heard. But if I looked it up, I tried to look, by the way, I really did. I tried to look for all the like worship songs I sang when I was a teenager. And a lot of them were about my flesh being weak and all that sort of stuff. And I came across, this is literally a website that was songs to help you fight your battles with your own flesh. And it was a list of Hillsong songs, which are what a lot of these churches are singing. There was a lot of these songs about how to overcome your own body. If you're at a war with yourself, how do you have reverence for yourself? I shared a little bit about tiny Sarah at 13 or 14 coming into a new community trying to fit in. But my hatred of my own body started a lot earlier. We have these weird memories as kids, don't we? I started dancing when I was 2. By the way, my brother and I both took dance together. If you want to know the difference between my engineer brother and myself, our first dance class together, sorry, Jonathan, I know you're probably watching this. My brother is he's an electrical engineer, he's very practical. So they were like, pretend you're an elephant. And I just start swinging my arms and moving to the music and just being very whimsical. And my brother's standing there, and the teacher's like, Jonathan, pretend you're an elephant. He said, I'm a little boy. And that's everything you need to know about my brother and I. Is like, I was like moving into the embarrassment of my brother, like, what are you doing? And so I started dancing at 2, and I loved to dance. And it was there that I first learned there was something wrong with my body. I was standing in front of the thing, and we did something, and I had her arm in the air, and a little girl who was one of my best friends said, everyone, look, Sarah has man arms. Because I was so strong as a kid, and it was the first time, can you imagine it, thinking like, I'm sure you all have those things that you can remember thinking, ugh, that's not great. And so I remember trying to hold my arms in a way that wouldn't look so big. Years later, I would dance on the Nutcracker, and I remember standing, and we were all in a row, and the dance teacher made the joke about, Sarah's butt sticks out further than everyone's. And slowly, I wanted to shrink. It's interesting how we have these memories of learning that our bodies are not okay. And later, when I was in college, that would really develop into an eating disorder that would happen if I was incredibly stressed. The problem was I was getting a lot of positive feedback for that. And I remember it started in high school, really. And sometimes it's hard for me to share these stories because I care so much about my little niece and the idea that she wouldn't think that her body was completely perfect, exactly like it is. I was a soccer player, and I remember going to a pizza party. And I'm deep in my evangelical movement, by the way, guys. I am so earnest about Jesus when I was in high school. I don't even want to know tiny Sarah. She was probably terrible. I remember putting my parents on prayer lists all the time. Just think about it. But we were eating, as you do, and I remember eating too many pieces of pizza in my mind as a 16-year-old athlete, who, by the way, had a six-pack. If I had that six-pack now, you guys would be seeing it right now for no reason. But I remember eating and looking around and feeling so much shame that I ran to the bathroom and threw up on purpose at 16. Because I wanted my body to be smaller. I wanted to fit. And I think about that, and I think about how that was encouraged within my evangelical community. I remember thinking, I wonder if God's madder at me for eating too much or madder at me for throwing up. Like, I'm having an existential crisis, and people are like, can we use the restroom? You know? And so when I was in college, I went through a difficult breakup, and I stopped eating because I was so stressed out. But the thing was, I started shrinking, and my sorority sisters started telling me how great I looked. What? And you have to understand, when you have that theology that your mind is what's important, not your body. My body was not exactly something I thought I should focus on. And more than that, I was being told over and over again by rules of youth group and all that sort of stuff that my body was problematic and tempting to the world around me. So when I was in this idea of reverence, how do I have reverence for my body? I'm not supposed to like my body. In fact, that's a problem if I do. And I think about all of this playing into this idea of Gnosticism. And finally, later, I would become a clergy member, and I would kind of take pride in everybody's like, you? Like, it was shocking. My favorite is my aunt, and I always throw her under the bus for this, because I remember I was like, I'm going to be a pastor. And she was like, a reverend? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, but you're a reverend. And I was like, also true, right? I liked being the but not that kind of pastor, right? Except for when someone really high up in our denomination called me into the office and gave me about half an hour of how great I am. We call this a poop sandwich, by the way. Of how great I am, how talented I am, how I'd been speaking all over the country to thousands of people, and how she thought I was the new voice of United Methodism. And then she gave the but moment, and you know it's coming, right? You're just like, well, we're going to get to the middle of this poop sandwich, and I'm not going to like it. And she said, but I have to tell you, people, the look in her eye was concern, and I thought, what's she about to say? She said, I think more people pay attention to the hem of your skirt than the words coming out of your mouth. She said, your body is a problem, literally. And like, you have to remember, I just told you about tiny teenage Sarah. I've always thought my body was a problem. So I was willing to hear this. She said, your body is a problem, and no woman would trust you with their boyfriend or husband. What? And I remember just thinking, this makes sense to me. My body is a problem. But your mind, Sarah, you're so smart. Can you imagine Gnosticism just everywhere? And I had to deconstruct that. And how did I do that? How did I learn reverence? Because it's not always easy for me. And it's through this idea of embodiment. What is embodiment? Well, we within the Christian tradition call that incarnation. You know, if we want to talk about the body being so bad, then why did God come in the form of a person? Incarnation, the becoming of flesh, is the thing that we celebrate at Christmas, and then we're like, but it's not that great, guys, you shouldn't do it. Communion, the act of embodiment, the actual temporal thing of touching and feeling and not just separating our body from our mind, is so important. And yet we have created this dichotomy where it's either like you're all about your body or you're all about your mind. And I am very happy for places and spaces like this where you guys really are trying to engage our spirit with not just our flesh and not just our mind and not just our spirit, but all three together. This is a quote from USC professor Donald Miller, and not that Donald Miller, if any of you have read Donald Miller, who is a writer. For thousands of years, the human species did not read. And only recently have non-elites been literate. During all of this time, the essence of religion has transmitted through images, music, and ritual events. It is a strangely modern idea that human meaning should be reduced to the words. Isn't that interesting? We talk so much about this idea, especially within progressive, we love to talk about accepting other people, but if we can't get this idea that it's not our right thought, but it's our bodies as well. Remember, Jesus, during the idea of communion, didn't say, like, these are my beliefs. He said, this is my body. We have to be able to accept that we are all of those. In fact, this thing that I walk around in, this meat suit, as I like to call it, is me. And I cannot learn reverence for you until I learn reverence for me. And that's hard because many of us have been told there's something wrong with our body. In fact, that's literally marketing. The whole point is to say that I am too old, I'm too big, all the things that little tiny Sarah, when she threw her arms in the air and she just wanted to spin, she just wanted to be an elephant, but she had man arms. She just wanted to be in the Nutcracker, but she had a big booty. All these things that you start to internalize. And within the evangelical community, that's the thing that keeps us kind of in the right way, in these little boxes. The female bodies can't do this. The queer bodies cannot do this. So when we have to figure out how to love ourselves, I think we have to remember, too, that embodiment helps us not just have reverence for ourselves, but reverence for others. Because here's the weird thing about my body. Are you ready? I don't see all of it. I can't know myself without you seeing me. Does that make sense? We have to see each other to know the fullness of each other, because I can't do this thing alone. So we talk about embodiment, and that's great, but we have to understand that our bodies are encountering others. And I'm not just talking about sight, that's ableism. I'm talking about even the way my voice sounds, whatever it might be. There are things about me I will never know that only you know. And so to fully know myself, I have to know you. This is from Isaac Villegas. The gaze reveals the boundaries of the body, not only the church as the body of Christ, but also each other, our physical lives, the skin that distinguishes you from me. I cannot see my whole body. I cannot know myself by myself. I'm too close to me to know who I am, to know the curves of my being. You show me who I am as I'm reflected in your eyes, the shape of my body, the contours of myself. Our relationship reveals my identity. I am found in your gaze. We bless each other with the words Jacob said to Esau, to see you is like seeing the face of God. But not all gazes are the same. Not all eyes look with love. Not all desires honor another's dignity and beauty. Some stares flatten others into commodities, into objects, whose value is determined by usefulness and bodies without agency or depth of consciousness. That type of look turns people into property, refusing to recognize others as having their own boundaries. Those eyes prefer coercion to consent. So I started off by making you read Romans from my ex-boyfriend, Paul. And the reason is I want to say that so many of us hear those scriptures and they feel familiar. Of course, bodies are bad and minds and spirits are good. But what if there isn't that separation? What if we have to merge them all? What if for me to learn reverence for you, I have to learn reverence for self, which means I have to know myself, which means I have to accept myself, which means I have to experience things through all my senses, through all of my being. Earlier, I was sharing with my friend who came down to visit that are over. I don't know where you live. I mean, I know in essence where Marietta is, but I don't know directions. But I was sharing that I love this author, Henri Nouwen, and I understand that Americans call him Henry Nouwen. And I'm sorry if I sound pretentious saying Henri. Henri Nouwen is this wonderful writer who really understood this idea of really being embodied or being in our body or being part of it's all one thing. And part of that was because Henri and who he was never able to fully accept himself. As a queer man within that culture and community, he never really was able to express himself. He's a phenomenal author. And I think a lot of the work that he did was really working out his own disconnection from his body. And I would argue that it's a lot of priests. You know, I'm really pleased to see that actually the Pope is kind of saying maybe it's important how the priests feel about their bodies and relationship and being close to humans in that way. But Henri said this, and I just love it. Meditation means to let the world descend from our minds into our hearts, and thus to become enfleshed. And thus to become enfleshed. I would argue that healthy spirituality and healthy Christianity and healthy belief helps us feel better. Now, watch it, happy clappies. I don't mean makes us like go out ecstatic, like, I went to church, everything's falling apart in Gaza, but we're all good because we got together and we sang some beautiful songs and we got to sing like Kermit. It felt really good. So life is awesome. We feel good. No. I mean actually feel better. Emphasis on feel. To be in touch with our own emotions so that we can be in touch with others. To not be ashamed of who our bodies are so that I am not ashamed of your body or uncomfortable with who and what you are. So much of what's going on in the world today, I believe, is from an epidemic of shame. Because if you can be worse than me, then I don't have to worry about the shame that I carry around. That woman who looked at me and said, your body is a problem, had been told in the 80s that her body was a problem. She suggested that I wore more suits. That was her answer. So I literally taking notes in a meeting, and I'm like, I come back to the notes, and I'm crying in the car talking to my mom. And my parents are just the best. It was so funny because my mom was like, well, what outfits was she talking about? And I was like, well, you know, this outfit and this outfit. And my dad's like, first of all, it's weird that she was chronicling your outfits. But second of all, and my mom was like, that one's from Ann Taylor. I was like, thanks, Mom. Like, thanks for being on my side. But I looked at my notes and it literally said suits. My notes said suits. No. But I think about her reaction to me was shame and fear. She could not experience reverence for me because she was dealing with her own shame. This is an ongoing process for me. As someone who's done a lot of therapy around body stuff, I'm still not perfect at it, guys. Yesterday, my 43-year-old body, and that's where you'll go, what? My 43-year-old body ran a 5K with my friend Sean, and I came in third in my division. That's like a big deal. There was more than 4 people in the race. I feel like I should say, to be clear. And I got the photos back last night, and I'm about to talk to you guys about embodiment, and I'm all jazzed. And then I go, why am I the chubby one on the podium? That was my reaction. And then I did what I'm going to invite you to do. I put my hand on my chest. And we'll do that in just a moment. I'm going to share something with you. But I put my hand on my chest, and I just said thank you to my own body. Because can you imagine how tired she is of hearing how terrible she is all the time? Like, woman, I just ran a 5K for you. And so I said, thank you, and I'm sorry that I don't always appreciate you. Friends, as we think about what it means to have reverence, may we be reminded that there is no separation between our body and our mind and our spirit. And it's only when we're able to engage all three that we can engage all three in the other. So in a moment, I know you might feel comfortable with this, you might not. I invite you to put your hand simply on your chest. However that feels comfortable or not, you can also just look in the sky as I see you, introverts, no problem. And I'd like to pray this prayer over you. This is from my favorite poet, John O'Donohue. May you hear this blessing. May your body be blessed. May you realize that your body is faithful and a beautiful friend for your soul. And may you be peaceful and joyful and recognize that your senses are sacred thresholds. May you realize that holiness is mindful, gazing, feeling, hearing, and touching. May your senses gather you and bring you home. May your senses always enable you to celebrate the universe and the mystery and the possibilities in your presence here. And may the eros of the earth bless you. So friends, I ask you again, how are you feeling? Amen.
Wow. Feel like standing and singing this? Feel your body right now. Stand if you'd like to. And dream. It's not up there. Here it is. And dream God's dream. Holy Spirit, help us dream of a world where I'm dreaming of a world. I'm dreaming.
Friends, we are going to get together outside in the courtyard for food and drink. And wouldn't you know it, the sun is shining, y'all. That tells me that we are holistically embodied, body, mind, and soul, as one family of love. And for that, I am so very grateful. Let's have a hand for the Reverend Sarah Heath, everybody.
Yeah.
And take some time today to be in remembrance, reverence for all that divine spirit mystery has given us. The beauty of this day, the color of the sun, and the love of such great hope in our hearts. Just seeing your faces gives me hope on this bright day. I love you. Let's sing a song called I Am Alive. And as you sing the song with me, we'll go out there. God bless you. I'm alive with you.
Yeah, let's sing it for the 49ers. Here we go. I am alive with the spirit of love. 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 I am alive, y'all, alive with the spirit of love. Are you alive? Are you alive with the spirit of love? Are you alive with the spirit of love? Are you alive with the spirit of... Go look for that rainbow. Alive with the spirit of love. Are you alive, y'all? Alive with the spirit of love. Now keep singing it as you walk outside and look for that rainbow. Ready? Alive with the spirit of love. We are alive with the spirit of love. We are alive with the spirit of love. We are alive, y'all. Alive with the spirit of love.